In this explainer, we're about to step behind the curtain of a 130-year-old behemoth, an entity so massive and honestly so deeply woven into the very fabric of our daily lives that its true shape is almost invisible to us. When you hear the name, you probably think of a red can, right? Maybe a polar bear, a classic logo. But the truth is far more calculated. It is deeply analytical and aggressively expansive. Let's decode the hidden corporate machinery of the Coca-Cola Company. $80 billion. Just let that sink in for a second. That staggering figure is the 2024 retail value of Coca-Cola's non-sparkling empire alone. $80 billion generated entirely outside of their traditional fizzy drinks. This single metric completely shatters the everyday illusion that they are simply a soda company.
The contrast is honestly stark. On one side, we have the classic perception, the iconic glass bottle of Coke. It's all about nostalgia and heritage. But then look at the modern reality. Smart water. Clear, functional, hyper-health focused. That classic red can is merely the tip of a heavily engineered iceberg. Beneath the surface, they've built this ruthlessly efficient portfolio designed to capture literally every single fluid ounce you consume in a given day. Now, to really grasp this unseen domination, we have to look at these incredible milestones from their 2025 sustainability update. Over the last decade, from 2014 to 2024, they have nearly doubled their non-sparkling retail value. Think about that. They aren't just participating in other categories, they are absolutely ruling them. We're talking the #1 global player in water, the #1 global player in juice, the #1 international sports drink brand, and perhaps the wildest fact of all. Roughly 75% of their billion-dollar brands now sit completely outside of sparkling soft drinks. This kind of global dominance doesn't just happen by accident. It is meticulously designed.
Part 1. Architects of the Machine.
Check out this breakdown of their board of directors' strategic experience from their 2026 proxy statement. Now, naturally, 12 of those seats hold marketing experience, but the crucial point to look at is right here. 9 seats are occupied by experts in innovation, digital, and technology. Another 9 bring broad international and emerging market exposure. Throw in 5 seats dedicated to governmental and geopolitical expertise. It brilliantly illustrates that Coca-Cola operates way more like a highly sophisticated, tech-forward geopolitical think tank. They are analyzing vast data networks and shifting global demographics. They definitely aren't just mixing syrup.
And all that high-level strategy? Well, it translates into aggressive physical warfare on the ground. 340,000. That is the number of new cold drink equipment units their system placed globally in just the first quarter of the year alone. Over 300,000 coolers. This is a highly calculated maneuver to dominate visible inventory and maximize what they call off-the-shelf points of interruption. Basically, they're physically engineering your environment to capture your impulse purchase before you even realize you're thirsty. But controlling the physical space is really only half the battle, because the other half is mastering the human mind.
Part 2. The strategy of zero.
69%. As of 2024, nearly 70% of their entire global portfolio has less than 100 calories per 12-ounce serving. They have been quietly, systematically engineering the sugar and calories right out of their empire, completely transforming their nutritional footprint while hiding in plain sight. So how do they actually pull off this massive shift so smoothly? Well, they use what their leadership calls the 4 Eyes framework. Let's look at their massive 0-0 success story over in Europe. It all started with an insight. They identified that at a certain time of day, consumers wanted to reduce their caffeine intake, but they desperately wanted to stick to the familiar flavors they're already addicted to. Then comes packaging, delivering that exact experience in the perfect physical format. Next is price, optimizing the values so making the switch is a total no-brainer. And finally, communication, amplifying their reach to speak directly to that specific, unspoken consumer desire. And this right here is the final execution. Take a look at Minute Maid Zero Sugar. They are honoring shifting consumer choices at a truly massive scale. By applying that 4 Eyes formula, they provide the healthier alternatives people are demanding while completely maintaining their psychological grip on the legacy flavors consumers crave. Building that kind of trust takes years. But as their executives note, it translates into unparalleled financial value for their entire ecosystem.
Part 3. Conquering the global chessboard. Winning the psychological battle in established markets is impressive, for sure. But to truly understand the scale of this empire, we have to zoom out.
Let's look at their basket incidence, which is basically how often their products actually end up in a consumer's shopping basket. In developed markets, they reach about 6 in 100 baskets. Pretty good. But look at the developing and emerging markets: Asia Pacific, China, India, Latin America. There is this massive, wide open, completely unpenetrated space here. Their underlying performance in these regions is already remarkably strong, driving consecutive years of powerful results. The runway they have left for future growth is just staggering.
And here is why that unpenetrated space is the most absolutely crucial metric of all. Roughly 80% of the entire human population lives in these developing and emerging markets. The sheer, overwhelming scale of this global chessboard is awe-inspiring. They aren't just fighting for market share anymore. They are positioning themselves to literally hydrate the future of human civilization.
But, as you can imagine, conquering that massive 80% requires some serious finesse. You can't just force a single American product onto the entire globe and expect it to work. Instead, their strategy relies heavily on hyper-local execution, effortlessly integrating themselves into local daily rituals. Take a canned Georgia coffee in Japan, for example. And behind the scenes, they are ruthlessly efficient. They're actively shedding lower-margin bottling businesses, transferring them out to structurally improve their overall company margin profile. It really is a masterclass in resilient all-weather maneuvering. So what actually happens when you combine geopolitical board members, psychological manipulation, and a totally aggressive push into emerging markets?
Part 4. The $3 payoff. Here is the ultimate financial climax of a decades-long master plan. Let's trace the trajectory of their comparable earnings per share. Back in the year 2000, it stood at exactly $1. Through the steady, calculated expansion of the 2010s and the resilient, tactical maneuvering through the absolute chaos of 2020, they are now targeting $3 by 2025. This is a perfectly aligned, continuously transforming strategy that has successfully tripled their earnings per share. Which actually brings us right back down to ground level. Back to you. The massive financial architecture we just decoded relies entirely on this very moment. You, standing there, looking into a cooler, making a choice. But the illusion of choice is exactly that, an illusion. Because whether you're looking for hydration, a quick hit of protein, some caffeine, or just simple comfort, this portfolio of loved brands is already waiting there, meticulously placed, completely ready to intercept your desire.
So, what does this all mean? The crucial point to take away from this explainer is this. We've seen their hidden dominance, we've seen the technological precision, and obviously their immense financial triumph. But with 80% of the world's population waiting in emerging markets, vast and unpenetrated, the real question isn't what this corporate behemoth will invent to sell next. The real question is who they will sell it to.